Okay, what is going on, YouTube? It is your boy Max, aka Hair Guy Blondie, bringing you back another video. I have to be like super quiet as I film this because my parents are sleeping, and it's also a work day tomorrow for me. So I want to film this video because I feel like I can actually say what I want to say, and usually I don't know why every time I make a video at 9 at night, 10 at night, it's usually the best because my mind isn't going off the rails and thinking about whatever. So I can actually concentrate on what I want to do and say in an actual video. So I might be doing more videos um, later at a later time to get the better experience because I've kind of transitioned into a morning bird into slowly more into a night owl. I've actually been going to bed later, and it's been like very tough for me at the beginning because I've been like super tired, but at the same time my body is kind of adjusted to the new time that I'm doing, so I'm able to bounce back pretty good. Um, anyway, I want to get into today's video. So I'm going to be talking about having anxiety, having intellectual disability, and having a heart defect, and how that kind of plays into a role of everyday life for me. Because I do think, and I'm not being paranoid when I say this, I am hyper aware of where my challenges kind of fall into place in a social setting, and I do get. I think I get looks, but I also don't know how to act out in public a lot of the time. I'm very awkward. I do a lot. I make. At least I think I do. You know how we're all our worst critics, but out in public, I'll just do all these weird faces, or I'll look randomly at anything, and sometimes I just stare and don't even know that I'm staring, and I don't mean to stare. I just do all these weird, odd mannerisms, and I've been really trying to work on it, especially the staring, because that's something that you know you don't want to be. I'm gonna be 25 this year in August, but I don't want the staring problem that's been with me since I was a kid to really be something that I do going into my 30s, late 30s, early 40s, because you know when I'm having to go out more and my parents are not going to be around forever, it's just it's a bad habit to get into. So um, I'm going to talk about the staring actually because I do it in a way that it's a coping mechanism for me to kind of, I don't know, I do it. It's like a sensory thing for me to understand what is going on in that moment. And I'm very sensitive to noise and sound, so mixed with like loud noises that I'm not expecting, it's like my brain is on high alert a lot of the time, and a lot of the memories that I do have, not every memory, of course. There's always good memories from my childhood, but a lot of the things that I do remember tend to be things that are not worth being anxious over or not worth reliving over and over again. And I tend to torture myself with my constant anxiety of thinking about things that have happened months ago, years ago, um, even not decades, but like even like five, something that happened 5 to 8 years ago. I'll still think about that moment of what I could have done differently, and it really takes a lot out of me because this is all happening in my head, and when I'm staring, it's like I'm not staring to be rude, but I'm thinking about how this situation can play over and over and over again, um, in many different ways. And it's just, it's how my brain thinks about what could be going on. Yes, I'm taking my socks off. Um, but that's how I really navigate the world, and it's not just out in places that I don't feel comfortable with. I do it at work. I think at work it's a little bit more, people understand that I'm intellectually challenged, so there's not as much backlash of when I do it for a prolonged period of time. But out in public, it's something to work on. And I noticed that I do this a ton, and maybe people with intellectual challenges can relate. But my disability is technically an invisible disability, so it's not something you can see on me. Like, it's not like a physical appearance change like Down syndrome or even autism, where it's like a tick that you can obviously see. That makes it obvious that someone is disabled intellectually, physically. Um, I guess more intellectually, because you know, when it comes to the intellectual disabilities with Down syndrome and autism, my disability is more invisible because it's not noticeable at all. But yeah, it's really tough because I feel like my mental maturity isn't really caught up. So out in public, when I experience emotions, when I'm happy, I'm very happy. When I'm sad, I am very, very sad. And I tend to portray almost like, how when you're watching a movie and someone's acting out someone who would be really, really happy or someone who would be very, very sad. It's like I take that put to the extreme sometimes, and I'm not even aware. So when I get angry, um, I guess my thing with anger is that I do actually have an anger problem. I do suffer from some serious anger issues where I can get really upset, and a lot of the time I'm upset at not anyone but upset at myself, because when I hear loud noises, or when I don't understand a certain set of what I'm supposed to be doing, it just my brain and whatever is turning in my brain, like the hamster wheel, just it stops or it moves very, very slow. And I have a low tolerance of frustration. And it actually, it almost got me in trouble, actually, when I joined. I'm going to be a little bit personal in this video, but I joined a league for bowling because I needed a hobby, and I've never been part of a group activity or a team sport in any way. So um, during the time at bowling, when I was not doing well, I would show like my mental maturity. When I was angry, it wasn't like, ah, darn it. It was like, it was loud, it was obnoxious, I was angry. I looked like, you know, I'm gonna be honest, like a 10-year-old boy when I get upset, because um I'm a very competitive person. And I remember one time we were bowling next to some people who weren't part of the league, and the league kind of has rules where you bowl and then the person bowls and then you bowl. It's kind of like you take turns, but if you're not part of the league, you don't have to follow that rule. Which I thought was, because I remember even bowling when I was in high school, that was a rule we even followed some of the time. But I don't know. I'm just used to that rule now. Um, Anyway, these people were bowling beside us, who were just, a family wanting to bowl for the night. And I had a really, like, I was having a really bad bowling game, and my frustrations really peaked at that moment. And yeah, I remember just my every every ounce of my challenges were showing. I was angry, my frustration levels were high, I was frustrated at myself. I was upset because the people who were bullying next to us, I'm aware, and I know in that, looking back, I'm aware that they probably didn't know the league rules. if if they're not going bowling, every once a week. But I I just noticed that I was, in that moment, I was so upset that my was just my staring. I was looking at the people that we were bowling with, and I remember them leaving and me just directly making eye contact on these two guys, and it was just, it was very, it was a moment for me that could have landed, like, if, say, if I wasn't in a group and I was bowling by myself, that is a situation that could have worked out completely different. But that's just kind of how my brain works. Um, so there is situations like that where I do actually need to work on and be better at my of how much of where I'm looking for how long. My dad has given me a rule where it's 1, 2, 3 seconds, look the other direction. So I really need to. I've tried putting that into practice some of the time, but I really need to do it more. Sorry if I'm stumbling my words. It's just I'm trying to say what I want to say, but I don't want to talk too much. Because if you start talking really fast, or not talk too much, if you start talking really fast, it's just, your mouth kind of barfs on itself, and it's messy. But yeah, those are some examples. There's been other examples. I think my staring issue has been more of a problem this last year, I've noticed, where it's really kicked into gear. I think that I want to go out. It's not that I don't want to go out, but I'm so hyper aware and hypersensitive about what is going on around me that I physically cannot enjoy myself out in public because I'm so worried about the worst case scenario. And I don't know if there's anyone else, even with an intellectual challenge like mine, who can relate, where it just seems more intensified than if you didn't have any challenges. Maybe people with social anxiety who do have it, because I was diagnosed with, that's the type of anxiety I have, is social anxiety. Though they though be it a really high functioning social anxiety disorder, because I'm able to go out in public and go to work and do stuff. It's not that I'm scared to leave my house. I think i think I'm scared to let go of all my mannerisms that I have done since I was a little kid, because it's what has made me feel safer in my life. And I know that in certain ways you kind of need to phase out of that. um but it brings it's what makes me feel a little bit more like myself, I guess, calmer, because I've always done these weird mannerisms, or weird, just these weird quirks, though be it not really noticeable. But it's you know what, I think I think just, I'm gonna be in my mid-20s soon. I'm waiting for heart surgery to happen. I was born with a TGA, which is transmissaries of the great arteries, which is a CHD, heart defect disorder. CHD means at birth, if you don't know. And I also got hit by a car in 2019. So all this really started since getting hit by that car. I just noticed everything that I was experiencing just ramped up. So I kind of look back at that and I wonder if that had some sort of impact on me. I maybe mentally without me actually knowing, like not any physical damage to the brain, but like maybe it escalated my hyper awareness that I've always had as a kid, and made it to the extreme of how bad it can get. But you got to put in the work, and you got to keep practicing every day to get better, because like I said, I don't want the staring to become a really bad problem for me as I get older. And yeah, I kind of wanted just to talk about that today, because um I don't know, at night I always think the clearest, and I'm able to kind of process a little bit better. um this is something that I struggle with every day. I can't stop replaying events in my head, um, whether that be out in public or at work, just anywhere I go. I just keep replaying events, and there are days where it doesn't bother me, but there's been more days where it's just been living in my head rent free, and I know that's not a good way to live. You kind of in a way you kind of have to accept, the uncertainty of the past, and you can't think about how situations could been played out differently. You kind of got to move forward with your life and be better over the course of days, months, years. And yeah, it's just one of those situations. But I want to get on here. I want to make a video about this before I go to bed. I'll probably upload this tonight. um yeah, but yeah, I just wanted to get on here, talk about this. I didn't really go into the heart defect stuff, but if I can share for a brief moment about the heart defect, that I do have TGA, transprostheses of the great arteries. Um, I'm going into my 14th year since my last major open heart surgery. Cardiologists has told me for the last 4 years that I have a dilated blood vessel, I have a leaky valve, I have a narrowed conduit, and all the while my heart is still functioning good, where blood is going everywhere to my body. So unless that changes, or I start to really feel tired and severely fatigued every day, that's when they would have to intervene and do work. But other than that, I'm pretty good. I thought for sure something was happening the other day, because I remember just how I was just really tired. But I think some of the time I don't get a good night's sleep, and I just, you know how it is. If you don't get a good sleep, or if you don't even eat breakfast, you just feel off for the day. I think that's the day I also skipped breakfast. So that's probably why. Bad sleep, not eating breakfast, not the good start of a day. But anyway, just want to get on here, talk about this. Um, so if you have an intellectual disability, or if you have an anxiety disorder or social anxiety disorder, or if you can relate to anything that I just said, maybe consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. And yeah, I'm trying to. I'm gonna do the next monthly beard growth update in the next few days. But I kind of want to shift focus on different video topics, like having a disability and having social anxiety, and talk more about that, because it's something that's personal, and really it's a part of me. It's not part of my personality, but it's part of who I am internally, and I have to live with it, and I want to talk about it more, if that makes sense. So yeah, hope you guys have a great day. Bye bye.